Hey, shalom, shalom, manakna wahai, barisha Allah walakim la'atam, call shabuai baharakha wa kakshaw Yahweh bahasham Yahweh shama amat, which is truly. Hey, with the Hebrew Israelites coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh bahasham Yahweh sham, to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Israelite foreigners. Nacham atam kaya malakwat hashemayim korah, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Call layim la Yahweh bahasham Yahweh sham bahasham rakha hakodash. Wama Shana Kabadim Zuklaim Nawa. Wama Laakim Sharish Lazuklaim Khagada War, Wahasa, Washalawam, Wabarakim Laha, Bakharim, Shah, Gawaya Shah Shalawam. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, which means he exists. Bahasham, in the name Yahweh Shai delivers. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Israel, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and mercy, peace, and blessings to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom, which means peace. This is an article in RT to read. It says NATO envoy names conditions for Ukraine to join. It says membership will only be possible when the country's borders are stable, a Czech official has said. It says the conflict between Moscow and Kyiv must end before Ukraine can join NATO. The Czech ambassador to the U.S.-led military bloc, Jacob Landvosky, told Bloomberg in an interview published on Thursday, which, if I'm not mistaken, Russia said if pretty much if the Ukraine was to join NATO, they would press the button, and use the nukes, all right, which would include, America, Babylon the Great. That's probably why they saying, that has to cool down, because they don't want Russia to, make a move like that, But nevertheless, it says membership might not require a formal peace treaty between the two neighbors, but Ukraine's border should be clear, he added. The outright fluidity and hostility needs to end, the diplomat said, apparently referring to the situation on the front lines. Ultimately, the only party responsible to answer the question of where the border should lie is Ukraine. He added, nobody from the outside can even comment on that. Ukraine's political system must match that of the bloc's members, according to Landowski. The diplomat added it will eventually be up to Kyiv to decide when the conflict with Russia was over. It says the 31-member bloc confirmed at a summit in Vilnius in mid-July that Ukraine will be allowed to join at an undetermined point in the future, but only after the conflict with Russia had ended. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky condemned NATO for what he claimed was indecisiveness and pointed to a lack of clear roadmap for accession, according to the Washington Post. Those words angered the U.S. to such an extent that it briefly considered withdrawing Kyiv's invitation to the bloc altogether. A recent report by The Guardian, citing an upcoming book from the U.S. journalist Franklin Fuhr, claimed that Zelensky had been pressing the U.S. into agreeing its NATO membership long before the conflict with Russia broke out. A 2021 meeting between Biden and Zelensky allegedly ended with the Ukrainian leader pissing off the U.S. president with his demands and what Fuhr described as absurd assessment of Ukraine's NATO prospects. All right, it says Moscow has stated the Ukraine's potential potential NATO membership is a direct threat to Russian national security. Going back to what I said about the nukes, you see, because pretty much they would want to prevent Ukraine from joining the NATO because they're right on the border. That's why it says it's a direct threat to Russian national security. You see, and like I said, if I'm not mistaken, Putin was like he would press the button if they actually join NATO. It says Moscow has repeatedly stated that Ukraine's potential NATO membership is a direct threat to Russian national security. It has also named Kyiv neutral status as among the conditions for ending its military campaign. Kyiv has rejected Moscow's conditions and demanded that Russian troops withdraw from all territories Ukraine considers its own, including Crimea and 4 former Ukrainian regions that joined Russia following referendums in autumn 2022. The developments come amid the continued Ukrainian counteroffensive. According to Moscow, the campaign has resulted and no more breakups or breakthroughs in the nearly 3 months since it began, and has seen Ukraine suffer heavy losses in both personnel and equipment. And that's part of the reason why they was accepting people to go over there and fight in Ukraine, because they lost personnel and equipment. And that's why another reason why the US is sending stuff over there currently. All right, which this can be a catalyst for the prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 37. I'm gonna get that. I'm actually I'm gonna get a couple. This is Ezekiel chapter 37, 39. It's a lot. This is Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 10. It says, "Thus saith the Lord power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the unland. So like I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates." All right. And it says the unwalled village, all right, because it talks about how America, Babylon the Great, is pretty much it's a land without walls. The borders is the sea. All right, I'm gonna get that real fast. This is Nahum chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, "Art thou better than Populus? Populus, know that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea." All right, so pretty much the boundaries around America, Babylon the Great, is pretty much open. You see, it's open for the taking. And then also going back to that verse, it was talking about pretty much how those that are at rest. All right, that's referring to America, Babylon the Great. All right, but America is that country whose rampart was the sea, and that word rampart should go into boundaries. I'm gonna get that. They actually got a song as well, that came out around probably about the 60s, 70s, 80s, going into the ramparts of America. It said Chayal, all right, fortress, wall. So going into the boundaries. All right. Yep. Continuing on, going back to Ezekiel chapter 38, and we'll get verse 11. It says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates." All right, because pretty much this place is open. And they do have like missile defense systems, but when the nukes are shot off, they're not going to be operable. You see, because the nukes is going to hit every single spot in this country. All right, but that's why it says dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates. All right, and it says to them that are at rest and dwell safely. When you go to Isaiah chapter 47, it talks about those that dwell carelessly. You see, because they're comfortable in this particular lifestyle that's lived in that westernization. They fully confide in westernization. You see. Let me get one more. This is Obadiah Ibadiah chapter 1 and verse 2. It says, "Behold, I've made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised." Now that's going into Esau, you see, but I'm applying this to America, Babylon the Great. You see, because nobody is, playing by America's rules anymore, so to speak. Because countries like Russia, China, they're all teaming up together. All right, and that's pretty much one reason why Russia doesn't want Ukraine joining the NATO. You see, and actually Ukraine was a part of Russia at one point. You see, so they're right in their backyard. All right, and being that the NATO would be over there in Ukraine, if they was to join NATO, that will make Russia look weak. All right, but pretty much just want to go into something quick. Adawama Tazazah Banayapa. Lord's will, that was a beautiful edification through the spirit. Wa Adawama Tazah. Atham Yashi Awam Tawab. Lord's will, you have a good day. Shalom, shalom.